So let's just center ourselves by turning inward. Feel free to close your eyes and intentionally choosing to really come to this moment, this here and now. Sensing the space that you're in. Taking the time to attune to the physical space. The contact with the chair that you're seated on. The contact of the fabric of your clothing against your body. And being aware also of your breath space. Just affording yourself this opportunity to catch your breath, as it were, to just be with and align to the breathing just as it is, not forcing or rushing, not impeding. And also being aware of your feeling space, your experience of living sensations. And your inner feeling space. And just by holding the intention and making this a choice in this moment, you can attune. It's as simple as that. We don't have to search for a particular place to be or to arrive at. Just simply coming home to yourself, to your own feeling state, and really turning on your inner viewing, as it were, and your willingness to simply observe. Just observing what is, observing yourself just as you are. And just allowing yourself to notice whatever may show up. We're not looking for anything specific or anything in particular. And as you're ready, just allowing your eyes to reopen.
You, Anne-Marie.
You're so welcome.
That's the way we do it as writers. We show rather than just tell. So that's the showing experience of it.
Yeah.
Did feel a bit awkward doing it on camera, I must confess. And of course, prior to setting up, there was a lot of agitation with the technology, which we made our way through. So it really reminded me of a course I did when I did my MA last year, where the professor was having a mindfulness approach to writing and just remembering to sort of come to center before we begin again,
Right.
which is why I wanted us to start that way.
Yeah.
Thank you, and thank you. So many people have been joining the Creative Conversations newsletter. I'm so grateful. And I really wanted an opportunity to share your work with other creatives, because more than anyone I know consistently, you're somebody who has followed the process from the inside out. And, and that is a practice, not a performance, not a production.
Right.
And that's why I wanted to start with Creative Conversations, is I want to have more opportunities to have conversations with other people who are in process, what I call working creatives.
Mhm.
So thank you for joining me today, Ann-Marie,
Mhm.
as
Well,
we follow the feelings instead of the goal.
absolutely. I'm grateful to be here. Yeah.
Yeah. So one of the most intriguing things I think about you, that I feel other creators will be interested in, is the way that you, I said in my post, you rerouted. You didn't just pivot. You were a working architect, trained architect, and then maybe there was a rupture in your life and you just had this rerouting experience. Are you willing to share some of that with us? Because I know a lot of creatives buck up with this idea of what we should be doing, what's real work,
Mm.
and that pursuit shows a lot of courage, and you've been showing the way of meditation and mindfulness for 30 plus years now.
I know. Incredible, the time. And, I realized that rerouting, it took place on a physical, literal level, because I did leave my job as an architect in London. But there was something going on internally inside of me, even though there were external circumstances that appeared to be the reason why, or the reason for the rerouting. But I guess the turning point, which did manifest as a rupture, which did manifest as an emotional crisis. I used to say at the time that it felt like everything major in one's life was being taken away from me simultaneously. So my job, my relationship, where I lived, the country I was born in, all of those things that matter so significantly, they all were taken away at the same time. And it felt as though the rug had been pulled out from underneath me. And I said those words for many years, even though at the time I felt and I knew that what was taking place was the best thing that could happen to me. And later on, the awareness came that nothing was taken from me. I was simply unburdened. And I was unburdened from the trajectory of my life, my career, as it had been sort of planned and expected. Yeah, in terms of fulfilling maybe a sense of loyalty to my parents, to society at large. But the voice that was speaking to me from the inside was really the one that I needed to listen to. And prior to that time, I had been listening to everybody else's voices and what I should do, what is expected of me. And I followed that. But there was this significant conflict in me that did manifest as this uprooting. Yeah. But I also realized it wasn't just a physical rerouting. I had to reroute in terms of choosing myself and choosing my own inner voice and my own inner guidance and calling. And even though I had access to that from when I was way younger, I dismissed it because somehow I felt that I needed to and wanted to fit in to the society that I was born into. And so for me, that meant, dismissing, ignoring, minimizing my own inner voice until that point in time did come forward, um, letting me know that the most significant voice that I need to listen to and to lean towards is that oftentimes quieter inner voice, but I needed to sort of change my allegiance and loyalty from the outer world to the inner. And I pivoted. I pivoted because I was ready. I was being prepared, certainly along the way. And that's why I knew that even though so much destruction in a way appeared to be happening in my life, I could feel my own freedom, and my own true liberation coming forward and being presented and offered to me. And I gave myself the permission to take that. Yeah.
You
And
know, this sort of paradox of what that you're describing seems to signal a kind of growth or maturity happening in us. And I know that the world is sort of saying, well, the goal is to become a working architect in London, Annie.
yeah,
What are you talking about? So what is this? What is it that you are following? To pick up on our theme, that what is this feeling that you were following? Because people will say, oh, I have feelings all the time, but they don't lead to anything productive or,
well,
because we have an association with feeling as being impulse or
yeah.
hyper emotional.
And we use that word, across the board, but the quality and the orientation of that feeling, it's not a flippant feeling. It's not my personality thinking, oh, I feel for, something nice to eat or what, or to go to this place or to have this thing. It's not that. It's a deep calling that certainly we have to be ready to respond to, because I wasn't ready for a long time. Yeah, but in that moment, I mean, I was being unburdened so that I didn't have any allegiance to anyone or anything. And so I needed now to follow my own inner radar as it was communicating to me. And even though I didn't know what that really meant, how do I manifest any of that in this physical, real world? But something lit up in me, and it's kind of like making a vow of sorts is what enlivened in me. And I committed to, even though everything was disappearing, tangible, I realized that that was not the real source of my distress. I realized that the key um, attribute of my distress was my own internal life and my own internal relationship that was fragmented and frayed. And I hadn't yet taken the time to establish a caring, trusting, friendly relationship with myself. So, what I realized in the height of, again, appearing to lose everything, I realized that my deepest pain was every time I pressured myself, every time I told myself I must do this, or I have to do this, or I should. All of those pressures, any which way in which I did apply that pressure to myself, I was being abusive towards myself. I was harming myself. And so the question becomes, now that you realize that this is what you're doing, do you want to continue in that direction? And I realized that the real remedy to my ailment was committing to actualizing a genuine friendliness and friendship with myself. And even though I didn't know what that looked like or what direction I needed to go, I knew that I could learn. At least I would try. I committed to making the endeavor. Yeah.
Now, I know that, you're using words like you felt a calling, things that sound, people might associate, a listener might associate with quite lofty and out
Yeah.
of reach.
Yes.
But having a fellow traveler like you, I know how you stay the course. I know how practical it is. I've seen you in every weather, in every situation and circumstances, as you have me. And I know how practical the endeavor is. What can you share to support, particularly, I think, creatives, we struggle so much with how to earn a living, very practical concerns, and you would have had to take a flying leap into the abyss to make some changes, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. And because I left, the financial security that I had at the time. And again, on leaving my job, because even before leaving my job, the strong feeling that arose in me was that I wanted to make a different kind of contribution. I wanted to engage and connect with people through touch. And feeling that some way, somehow, that would be meaningful. Yeah. And so literally I started out, even before I left architecture, I took a holistic massage course because my spirit was moving me in that direction. Yeah. And for me, the experience that I had working in the business world was, the business aspect of it, where it felt like oftentimes you were having to impress, you were having to oversell something, you were having to pretend in certain ways. All of those things rubbed against me in a significant way. And that's just not my makeup. Yeah. So it's not even the literal design part that I did enjoy and that I was quite good at. It was, let's say, the business component of it that felt very much against who I am and my nature. Yeah.
And that brings me to this word that is thrown around a lot about performative, yeah, sort of performative life. And I mean, there's probably no space more performative now. And in terms of pivoting to the holistic space and the yoga and so
Yeah.
on, right? It's just
Yeah.
become quite a marketplace.
Yeah.
And it's hard to discern perhaps what feels authentic and rooted. For
Mhm.
me, practicing alongside you over so many years and having your instruction and guidance, but particularly your fellowship, for me, it is always about turning within or turning inward because everything else is magnetizing us constantly through our eyes, through our ears, our
Yeah.
taste buds, the demands. I mean, you just have to go out and onto the street and the ads are coming at you. You don't even need your phone for that, right? Everything is influencing us all the time. How do you have any sort of practical guidance about staying grounded, turning within, and process over performance? Even though you may be a performer, a dancer, an actor,
Right.
um, you know, being rooted in the process really is a different feeling. I can feel when I'm there. This is why I wanted you to sort of start today's session with sort of grounding, rerouting.
Yeah. Well, I would say that, where to begin? Um, for me, I being what I describe as sensitive, I've always been that way. I guess I could be easily overstimulated. Yeah. And this is even before the internet, right? Way before, because my changes I'm talking about the late 80s, early 90s. So this is before, the yoga trend. Yeah. But all of my teaching and so really was born out of my own self inquiry and my own personal journey. So again, letting go of the security of, you see, it was either I let that go even though I don't know what direction I'm going to face or how I'm going to make a living. It felt like if I don't do that, the next move that happens for me is towards death. And I know that might sound exaggerated, but it felt like that for me on the inside. I don't mean I was looking to die, but it felt like death was creeping up on me from the inside. Yeah. So I knew that I could not continue that way. And so I would need time and space. And I didn't have any teacher in the physical realm that was going to say, well, now, Anne-Marie, you have to go here and learn this and whatever. So I had to find my own way. But there was a part of me, even when I was having my high school education in Trinidad, as good as it was and as grateful as I am, I knew that that academic education was not going to serve me in my life the way I needed to be educated. And the inner education that I knew that I needed, I didn't see anywhere or anyone advertising, come and this is how we'll tell you and show you, how to cultivate a healthy relationship with yourself. I had to work that out and to find that out one step at a time with myself. Right. So it then becomes a journey of, again, self inquiry, of observing, of noticing your feeling state, of noticing your reactivity, of questioning and reflecting. And I spent endless time engaging in this as if it was a career choice that I had made. And I'm, avidly studying, not in that kind of way, but I took it with the same sort of level of seriousness and commitment as if I had signed up to do, whatever else.
Mm.
So yeah,
And now you help now you help so many others in their process,
well, that's uh-huh,
but mostly by staying in touch with your own process.
yeah,
I think that's something I could say
yeah.
that's different from other courses or programs or yoga sessions that I've attended, that it's really by way of example, which is probably the hardest thing to do. And maybe that, would you say, can you speak a little bit about that in terms of the idea of not being performative? How do you ground yourself in that? Because there's so much influence to be guru-like, or to
I have
I know how you have no interest in that. I mean,
zero interest.
more than anyone I know, I could
Yeah,
say that
because
is the
the thing
truth.
is, I have learned how to. Again, my endeavor and my commitment is to try to take responsibility for myself. And when I say that, not just again in the external world, but on an inner level. So if a situation arises and I'm upset, our go-to might be to blame parts of the circumstances or the other. And I try to see, okay, well, what is my involvement? What is my participation in that? So I try to take accountability and tweak along the way my reactivity so that in the maturing that takes place and in the self-understanding that enlivens and in the insights that are gifted, you respond differently, and life, the texture of life changes significantly. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've
And
never been, go ahead.
go ahead.
I was just going to say, I've never been my impulse and my motivation for doing something has never been about the end goal or the monetary whatever compensation. I realize that what nourishes me the most is, again, cultivating a richness of inner feeling. Yeah. So if I take responsibility for myself and I let go of blaming my mother and my father and whoever else, and I hold myself to be in my own care, as it were, then again, you still live in this material world, but your inner life experience is so different. And so that's where I gain a sense of real security and groundedness and comfort from the inner life that I have cultivated. And it's not about, because the relationship is with myself, it's not about me. It's not that at all. But it's trying to be as honest and authentic with myself as to, if I see something where I think, I make a mistake, rather than blaming myself and belittling myself, I try to be encouraging, how could that change or be tweaked, or so to be a support. And again, a genuine friend to myself. I wasn't taught that at school. I don't know.
Well, who was, right?
Exactly.
We're all right there with you.
But I think that is essential learning.
It
That
is
is essential
essential
learning.
learning, and it's never been more evident than in today's world,
Yeah.
in the public sphere. But
Yeah.
Annie, we're going to pause for now and come back with a part two. I know that you paint so beautifully, yet you don't exhibit, but you incorporate your creativity into everything you do, whether it's in your garden or putting out a good meal.
Yeah.
And I know that you've completed a book as
I
well that you might like to share with us. But we want to talk about how structure and surrender meet, because people are going to go, yeah, but if I just give in to the feeling, I might never get out of bed for a year or more.
Yeah.
And how do we use the body as a place of knowing to help us gauge the feeling, and your somatic work with that. But
Mhm.
if you want to just sort of share something about something you have going on, or where people can find you before we wrap up today, and then we come back with a part two.
Okay. So in terms of locating me, I guess Instagram, Facebook, Ann-Marie Ahye, you have the spelling of my name there. My
Mhm.
website is energeticpresence.com.
Mhm.
And so, yes, as you shared, I do teach online mindful yoga classes. And I also offer some monthly breath work and meditation workshops. A retreat, which has been for many, many years in Tobago. And subsequent to, I think it was about 15 retreats that I held annually. I had a retreat in Costa Rica and then in Bali. And then this year we returned to Tobago, and next year we'll return to Tobago again. That has been just
And in
illuminating.
Mexico, you've had retreats
Well,
you've
no,
had in
not
Mexico.
retreats. I did teach there as a
Oh,
guest
okay, right.
at Rancho La Puerta in
Yes.
Tecate, and those have been really,
And Vancouver and New York.
yeah,
I think I
yeah,
think you yourself have forgotten all the
I don't
wonderful work.
think of it. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
add it up and compile it. I just show up and I
yeah.
offer it, and I'm
And
grateful.
just say something briefly about the idea. People may get the idea that these practices have some religious connotation, or while they are spiritual. I know that you lean towards Buddhism, but it's not really about that. So can you maybe
No, I
share?
mean, I was brought up in the Roman Catholic faith, but my leaning has been, people told me when I was teaching yoga in Toronto, Oftentimes my students would say, "You sound so Buddhist," and that's before I even had more of a draw there. But I'm in agreement with the understanding that, my religion is kindness, and that kindness has to start, at home, with trying to engender an authentic, again, friendly relationship with myself, because only when that is real can I offer any of that to anyone else. Otherwise, if that is lacking, if that is suffering from neglect, then what I'm offering you is an ideal or a pretense or whatever it is.
Words and
I mean,
ideas.
good
Yeah,
intention, but there's still a fake and an
yeah,
inauthenticity to it.
yeah.
So, the original rerouting, it had to manifest. I had to take the time, and I was graced that time and space to really heal and to cultivate what serves me and has served me now long term. And then I draw on so much of that when I'm communicating with others in order to assist them, because it's not that I have some sort of special formula and I'm just, handing that out. I'm endeavoring to, just as I needed to invest in cultivating a different kind of relationship, a healthy relationship with myself, that's what I try to share with people, right? And as they do that, then they can sort of deconstruct and decode in a way the trauma that they've been through. It's not just sort of regurgitating that and getting over that. But if you can develop a different kind of relationship with yourself, then everything that comes to the table is viewed from that orientation and with the care and with the tenderness and with the understanding, so that the healing that manifests can be real and we're not just trying to get over something.
Yeah, my guest, Claire Harrison, last month, I don't know if you
Mm.
listened to her talk, she gave an insight that I never thought about. She said, there's a lot of um, what's the word? There's a lot of stuff hiding out in the creative world as passion.
Right.
When you're working around the clock, painting or writing
Yeah.
or rehearsing or
Yeah.
whatever you're working on. And I could say that I definitely am guilty of that and have often considered it passion. Well, it's just
Mm.
your passion to, you can't stop, you got to keep going. And so I think as creatives, we really need to understand self-care. We need
Mhm.
tools of
You see,
practice,
a
and
great
we need support for community support for practice as
yeah.
well.
But you see, just as passion can be a great motivator, fear can be a great motivator too,
Mhm.
right? And if you don't discern that, you could misread that as passion, right?
True. So yes, because then you're on the hamster treadmill
Yeah.
with a lot of anxiety,
Yeah.
following bliss, following my bliss, following my bliss. So let's pause there today on a lovely note of laughter, and I'll see
Okay.
you back for part two. Thank
Okay,
you,
sounds
Annie.
good. You're so welcome.